Welcome to Back on the Broomstick,
A modern witch's spoken word grimoire.
where two witchy friends from way back are reconnecting to their pagan roots after a long period of mundanity.
We're rewalking the path of the wise and trying out all the latest spells, rituals, and magical theory in today's witchcraft and pagan practices.
So grab your wand and your incense
Your cauldron and your crystals
and join us
as we get
back on the broomstick.
Hi, and welcome to Back on the Broomstick. I'm Layla, and this episode is all about front porch magic. How to protect your home by guarding the front door space like your porch or entryway. Front porch magic has a long and storied place in American history. What is it? How to do it? And what magic can it bring to your practice?
And I'm Chelle, and this is something I haven't always been a practicer of. Maybe here and there a little bit, tits and tats, but this has been fun to kind of dive into because I don't think we take enough stock in all of our space and making it magical. So I think if we think about all of the spaces that encompass our greater space, such as our front porch, and look at it magically, hey, why not?
Front porch magic is one of those things that has been around for a very long time in the United States. We do love our porches here, from summertime, having drinks with our friends sitting out on the front porch, to Halloween and trick-or-treating and decorating them. Porches in the United States have been very important culturally, I think. And so it's not surprising that they also show up in our magic.
Well, and it's a social hub, like you said, but it's also a gateway too. And I think that's where you can kind of see it from the magical perspective is it is kind of that final threshold into your personal space, your home. But it is also a place to kind of create those social bonds.
And social magic is part of the liminal space magic. That is part and parcel of all of it. You can't have one without the other. It is a liminal space because it is that section between the social world and your private personal world. So both of those kind of exist in the same place. It's a liminal magical space because it is a doorway, because it is that boundary that separates the outside world and energies from your inside domain, your personal hub. Because it exists in that in-between space, it can be a very magical place for you to set protections, to set boundaries, and even to set energies that you will encounter every day. Because what do? You go in and out your front door all the time on any given day. So where better to set those liminal space magics than someplace that you go through on a regular basis?
Fun to talk about this right now, and there's lots you can do with your front porch this time of year, but you absolutely can start this at any time. So for our Southern Hemisphere friends, fear not, you can do porch magic all year round. But I think we'll get into a little bit how you kind of tailor it depending on the months or the seasons or the Sabbats.
Yeah, much like people decorate the outside of their homes, this is a type of mundane magic that everybody kind of does. You put your welcome mat out, you'll put your wreath on the front door, or decorations for Yule or for Samhain or Thanksgiving or to celebrate spring. People do this whether it has a religious connotation or not. And a lot of that goes back to the deep South in America and those big, wide veranda porches that
They have the best porches in the South for real.
they absolutely do. And okay, so the South and the time of these sweeping verandas had a lot of hidden problems, a lot of hidden evil behind those porches. But one of the most common porch magic go back to the South, go back to folk magic, go back to some of the African traditions that enslaved people brought with them. And one of them is a very common thing that you'll see pop up when you look up front porch magic, and that is painting your porch something called haint blue. And the idea for this, back in the deep South, was that this light color blue, this very pretty color blue, painted on this liminal space of your porch would help to protect it from spirits passing that threshold. And so it would keep it safe from the spirits being able to enter your space.
That's the weirdest thing ever because, like, my childhood home, the ceiling of the front porch is blue. But the house is yellow and the trim is white and brown. And I'm like, the hell is my mother picking blue for? Where'd that come from? Apparently now I know.
That particular color blue comes from Gullah Geechee spirituality, African American hoodoo and conjure traditions, Appalachian lore, Louisiana folklore, and of course, some traditions like Pennsylvania Dutch. So I'm not very surprised. A lot of immigrants brought in some of these ideas and these traditions about how to protect your space from spirits and from negative energy entering into it. So this comes from a lot of different places. America is a melting pot, and our folk wisdom and our folk magic is no different. As soon as you get down to the deep roots of some of these folk magics, you'll find that they come from immigrants from all over and blend into this beautiful mishmash of sometimes contradictory spirituality.
I think that there's elements of porch magic that, although have kind of hidden in the shadows, are pieces and parts that people all over the country use year after year, season after season. And I think the biggest thing I think of porch magic is wind chimes.
Oh
Everybody
my
and their
gosh,
brother
yes.
has a wind chime.
Yeah, the sound of wind chimes walking down a suburban sidewalk, and you'll hear the tinkling of wind chimes in the distance. Tell us a little bit about wind chime and wind chime magic, because you're right, that is something that you'll hear a lot of, and that is one layer of magic that you can add to a porch, is that sound.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, wind chimes are a sound thing, ancient practice of using sound of the chimes moved by the wind to clear negative energy, invite good luck, and shift the spiritual mood space. So that kind of falls in line with that threshold theory because, that front porch is the threshold into your castle, into your domain, into your private space. So you want to clear things of negative energy before you allow them to enter. Also, obviously, you want to be inviting good luck into your space. Like, who the hell wouldn't want to do that? And shifting the spiritual mood. And that can be, maybe someone is just got some bad energy that day and you're just not down with that and don't want that in your house. So things like sound cleansing via wind chimes is kind of a natural thing. Not to mention, wind chimes also are for protection and can warn or block against evil spirits. Also, sound healing, that's a given. But one thing I did find out, and this was new to me, I've known about the wind chimes and the sound magic and the protection thing, but I didn't realize that metal chimes are best for north and west because they cut stagnant energy, and bamboo or wood chimes are best for east or south because they invite health and growth.
That sounds like a feng shui type of energy.
Yeah, and actually, some of the stuff I had looked into feng shui does play a part into that sound magic thing. So, placement of some of these objects on your porch is also, I don't want to say imperative, but
Certainly important for sure, but the flow of energy is highly important. And I think that's why feng shui pops up a lot when you talk about front porch magic, because it's not just an American tradition, a United States tradition.
like you said, it's a melting pot of tradition.
Yeah, and entryway magic comes from all over the place. And if you look up feng shui, you'll see things about where to put things by your front door, how to decorate your front door, what not to put next to your front door. Don't put your front door directly in line with your back door because the energy will flow straight out. Don't put a curving mirror behind your front door because the energy will vortex and spiral out. So a lot of it follows the flow of energy. And so you'll see that from different places. And wind chimes in particular, that bell sound has been across many cultures a sign of protection. Metal bells can protect you against the fae. They can protect you against spirits. And so having witch bells or wind chimes in your doorway or entryways is a very beautiful and very sneaky, I guess, kind of under the witch radar way of having a cleansing sound bath. Witch bells of protection right there by your entryway.
They come in so many different shapes and sizes and materials. Like I said, the bamboo or the wood is good for east or south, but man, I love a good bamboo wind chime. They just sound so tranquil.
They do. And that's a good point too, is what type of energy do you want on your entryway? Now, we're not just talking protection magic here, like a line of salt or herbs laid across your threshold, which you could certainly do. And what that does is creates a barrier negativity cannot cross. And any person who steps over that barrier will be cleansed as they either go in or out of your home. So cleansing and protection is great, but what if you want to set a mood? What if you want to be able to lighten your mood when you walk out your door, when you walk into your door? Those bamboo wind chimes might bring that sense of calm or peace or zen as you're crossing that magical threshold, that liminal space.
And, the same thing could be said with bells. I love a good set of bells on a door handle. So, in my opinion, I think bells and wind chimes kind of have that same purpose as far as front porch magic. They're kind of going towards that same goal of cleansing and protecting.
Absolutely. The first thing I think of when I think of front porch magic is a broom. Funnily enough.
The old wooden straw broom.
Exactly. I do love a good cinnamon broom hung up over top of my doorway. Change that out every year. And what that does is, again, it's about cleansing things that you put across your threshold. The idea is to stop or trap negative energy and to cleanse people or items as they come into your home. So, what a broom does is thankfully it has bristles. And if you think of what a broom does in the mundane world, is it cleanses. So in the magical world, it does the same thing. As you cross underneath that broom, it will cleanse you. It will cleanse your negative energy. And the bristles of the broom serve a second purpose, not just for cleaning, but also for entrapping negative energy, negative spirits, and bad fae. Because the folk wisdom says that they will get so entangled in counting the straws of the broom, the bristles of the broom, that they'll get distracted and forget why they were there and then wander off once they finished counting. And that same thing can be said sometimes for placing rice or something else like herbs across the front door. Not just will the herbs themselves deter negative energy, but the fact that there's a lot of it means that some energies will get trapped trying to count those little tiny pieces and get distracted and wander away.
And, I think that that's something good to touch on is either salt or herb lines because people think to do that sometimes within their home. They'll put salt on their windows or put salt on their doorways. People forget about doing that on the outside of their house. And as you've taught us long ago with your silly roof story,
Hmm.
salt isn't always the best thing to use, especially out of doors. So a good herb line, maybe around the perimeter of your porch, or even hell, the perimeter of your property, or even doubly both.
And even the broom that I just mentioned, I said I use a cinnamon broom. And the idea for that is cinnamon is very good for cleansing. It's also great for attracting luck and for attracting wealth. How many of us do the front porch cinnamon blow on the first of the month, sometime around the month, blowing cinnamon out your front door or in your front door?
I was going to say, am I throwing the broom in?
The idea of the cinnamon itself being in the broom just passively means that the energy of that cinnamon is active the entire time that the broom is there. So you can choose what energies you want to have in. Maybe you want to have a lavender broom, or maybe you want to hang sprigs of catnip or some other herb to bring energy or luck or love into your life. So every time you cross that threshold, you are brushing up against that energy and bringing that with you as you go someplace.
Now, something else that can be very non-witchy if you're trying to hide the fact that you can utilize for some really good front porch magic is plants. And this is probably a little more your forte than mine. But, put out some protective greenery on your porch. Put out a pot of rosemary or a pot of mint. Hell, put some ferns in a pot and get that out on your porch. They sell those ferns in baskets. Those from your porch because these things will filter some of that incoming energy, not necessarily shift it per se, but it'll filter out some of that negativeness that may be coming towards your door. And who does not love flowers on the porch? Come on.
And to extend that even a little bit further, you can put different potted plants, change them out with the seasons. And just recently, we were at Brushwood Folklore Center for the Sirius Rising Festival, and we met up with JP and Alex, two of our amazing friends that we get to see there. Hey guys, I hope things are going well. And they were telling us about decorating their home and didn't even realize as they were putting plants in their front walkway and across their front porch. Only later did they realize that all the different plants and flowers that they had chosen were for protection and were for cleansing and were for boundary setting. So they didn't just choose them that were beautiful. They instinctually, without even realizing it, chose plants and flowers to line their entryway and their walkway that would protect their home. So you can do that intentionally just by choosing the different shrubs or different flowers that you use to line your entryway. What kind of energy do you want your guests to have as they start walking up the path into your home?
And, It doesn't hurt to have a little herb garden right at your doorstep either.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's always really nice. Now, for the people who live in apartments or someplace where you don't have necessarily a walkway or a very large porch, this can be done on an extremely small scale as well. And like Shell mentioned, some of this can be super under the radar. And one very good way to do this is doormats.
Yep.
Even in apartments, I've seen you will sometimes have a doormat on the outside or just inside the threshold of your home. And just by the colors and the messages that you choose on your doormat, you can use that to help set an intention for that threshold.
You know, I don't know why, but I immediately thought of the folks out there whom I love dearly that have Ouija board doormats. Um, like, I don't know. I want to say what message you're trying to get across, but that might not be the right verbiage. Like, what are you bringing in, folks? Is
Right,
a
what are you
Ouija
asking
board
for here?
really what you, yeah, is that really what you want at the threshold? But I'm totally game for it. I'd buy one.
Now, on that same kind of vein, I am not exactly a fan of welcome mats. I'm an introvert. Not everybody is welcome in my home, so I don't
Just
like to
because I have
choose
a
a
doormat don't mean you're welcome.
that's very true, but that's the kind of energy that you're inviting. If you have a doormat that says welcome, the energy and the idea that you're putting out there is you are welcome here. And if that's your feeling, then go for it. But if you're kind of like me, you're a little bit of an introvert, and you'd really prefer people kind of set an appointment before they come knock at your door, then maybe you want something a little different as a doormat. Maybe something without words. Maybe something that says, "This is my house, back away," or whatever message you want. But you can choose that with intention and with care to help set the idea and set the tone of your entryway.
Kind of like a proceed with caution type thing.
There you go, or a trick or treat mat, whatever. And you can also put things under that mat. So maybe you do have a welcome mat and you're not very welcoming, but you also don't want to get rid of it. You could slip some herbs or even a note, put a couple bay leaves with the idea that only positive energy is welcome here, and place those underneath your entryway doormat.
Another option of something that you can do outside on your porch, you can either, set it on the ground or if you have a small table. My old house in New York, I used to have a bowl of crystals out on the front. Just some like clear quartz or some amethyst. I mean, nothing super fancy, but just a bowl of crystals. Again, trying to clear anything that was coming my way. Overkill isn't a thing when it's not when you're talking about cleansing and protecting.
That's true.
These are all things that you can change out seasonally. Maybe like you were saying with the plants and the flowers, you could put mums out there in the fall and put different wreaths out there on your door. I like natural wreaths, and that's another good way to kind of put some magic on your door without necessarily being witchy about it per se. Make a wreath and then put your slices of fruit in it and put your berries in it and make little things out of salt dough to decorate it with, put ribbons in it, do all the things and change them out as you go.
And choose them with intention. The idea is to layer all of these different things. Put a broom above the door, put your welcome signs, or put your artwork along each side of the doorway. Change out the front door mat, change the plants that are on the porch, and choose them all with a certain intention in mind, whether it's to protect your home or maybe it's to protect your peace. Maybe it's to attract money into your home. But by setting your entryway, your front porch, the doorway that you go in and out of every day, if you set that to automatically bless you with a little bit of the energy that you've put on that porch, then you are one step ahead. Think of it like a spell jar that you've created and sealed and put somewhere so that every time you pass it, it kind of reactivates that spell a little bit. Well, your porch is basically a great big spell jar that you can fill with all the different things to put towards your spell, your intention, so that every time you or anyone else passes through that energy, you're receiving those blessings and renewing that energy.
I like that.
Yeah.
That makes it sound so much more wonderful than just putting some stuff on the porch and making it look pretty.
Yeah, and pictures and art don't have to be like literal paintings or things like that, but they could. People for a very long time have put things like horseshoes above their door, although there is some debate on whether the horseshoe is supposed to be points up to hold in the luck or points down to rain the luck down on you. One of those things where it depends on where you come from and what the land spirits and what your ancestors have to say about it. But Putting things like iron or keys by your front door to prevent negative spirits from coming in have been around for a really long time.
Yeah, I remember being a kid and seeing people in my have railroads. The railroad was big from where I was from, so maybe it was just access to the iron. But railroad stakes and horseshoes were a big thing that people had on doorways.
Now, I know that railroad stakes do have some ties to moving, and I believe the idea with a railroad tie, it will help you to stay where you're at.
I believe it is to help you, like, because if you think of what a railroad tie does, it kind of stables things down. And I think the idea of putting a railroad tie above your doorway is to make that a stable, foundational home for you and your family.
And I think sometimes people will also put them at the corners of a property or the corners of
Yep.
their porch. Same thing to kind of bring that stability, that grounding, that protection into the property and it kind of quote unquote nail down the stability. So if you
Yeah,
have those railroad ties, I believe someone in our community just recently gave railroad ties out to a couple different people that had moved into community recently.
they did. Yeah.
So gifted things. And back when back in the 70s and 80s, front porches were a little simpler. People still decorated, but I think decorating your front porch has kind of exploded in the last few decades. People love their front porches. They love to hang out there. And like we were talking at the beginning of the episode, they've kind of created them to be somewhat social spaces. And so I think in light of the fact that we're spending even more time on our front porches, especially as it's getting more and more expensive to go other places, setting up that space either to hang out in and have good energy or just to pass through and invite good energy can be really important to setting your mood for the day or setting your household energy.
Nothing like having a cup of tea out on the porch in the morning.
Oh my gosh, that is one of my favorite things is to look out over this gorgeous view on the front porch, have a joint, have my morning caffeine, and just kind of wake up and be slow and intentional with the day. And it's so much easier when the porch is nice and set up to be kind of cozy and set up with that type of energy. So, whether you're using doormats or wind chimes, wreaths, plants, art, decorations, horseshoes, whatever you're happen to be using, choose something intentional for your front door to kind of set that energy and set that magic for your home and for your personal space.
I'm gonna go decorate the front porch.
You mentioned salt dough, and real quick, I'm just going to mention that, we did a workshop on that at Sirius, presented that for people, and it was a really cute idea because salt and flour is a super easy thing for people to make. It's something a lot of people have in their kitchen. And so as far as kitchen magic goes, taking a protective item like salt and adding it to a hearth and home item like flour, throwing in some water to again bring that emotions and to bring that deep cleansing to it, and then the heat of your
Sounds like porch
hands.
magic to me.
Exactly. Turn that into the basis of your wind chimes. Turn that into a spell. Add a little oil, add a little herbs to your intention. Create a shape like a sun or a star, a moon. And then from that salt dough that you've created with all of this protection intention, add a sigil, add some bells, add some flowers or some ribbons in a certain color. And now you have a beautiful piece of art that you have created from every single ingredient carries the intention of the magic that you want for your front porch. So that's certainly something you can do too.
Definitely much more magical than any wind chime you're gonna go buy at the old Dollar General.
That's true, although there can be magic there as well. We're not going to
There
judge.
is, there is.
We are certainly not going to judge where you get your wind chimes from. So we hope you're all enjoying your summer, whether it's rainy and cold or hot and sweltering. We hope you are getting the most fun and magic out of this beautiful August. Enjoy this between the spokes time from Lunasa to Mabon, and we will see you on Friday with another episode.
And we hope that you guys are gonna take a moment and just cleanse your threshold. Do something with your threshold. Pretty up your threshold.
That's right. Chelle says, clean up your doorways, people, because the witches are coming to. Okay, not really, but maybe clean up your doorways because your relatives are coming over or something. I'm not sure. But enjoy, clean up those doorways. And once you're done with that, please like, subscribe, give us some stars, give us some reviews. It really helps the show out and makes Chelle and I all happy as we're sitting on that beautiful front porch. So in the meantime, all you little witches, be wise, be wicked.
And keep it witchy.